All right, guys, you hit the download button on the Technology Geek podcast. This is our weekly podcast. We do this show every single week. We talk about computers, tech, the internet, all that jazz. But Unleashed is unlike any other show because Unleashed is the Just Me show. And that's today's show. And then Friday, we have usually we have a guest on. This week we have Onslaught on. He's a really good friend of the show's, and him and his girlfriend are wonderful musicians, and they're going to be on the show talking to you about how they actually make money doing digital audio and all that kind of stuff. So, as always, you can find all of our podcasts on the technologygeek.org, as well as on iTunes, SoundCloud, and pretty much any place where podcasts are available. So we got a lot to talk about this week on Unleashed. Now, what exactly is Unleashed, folks? You guys want to know? Unleashed is pretty much where it's just the me show for the most part. It's kind of where I kind of just have me. A lot of times, usually on the Technology Geek, the Friday show, usually have a guest. The Unleashed show is just me. You can find the Unleashed feed. Some people, believe it or not, just like Unleashed. They just like me. They don't like the guests. Some people just enjoy just me, which is nothing wrong with that. I myself always liked it when Art Bell did a solo show rather than when he had a guest on. But you can find me either on the Unleashed feed, or you can find my show on the regular Technology Geek feed. Both are available on iTunes and our website. So let's talk about some news going on this week. So first of all, I guess the big news of the week that I thought was the big news of the week was this whole thing with the Barbie dolls, I guess, that they're making now. Actually, we're going to record what the kids say, and the Barbie doll's going to talk back. It's the next generation of Barbie doll, they're calling it. Folks, Siri listens to everything we do. A lot of, Google Now, all that stuff always records our voice. Hey, when you're an adult, you make the decision to say, okay, I'm going to talk into this thing. Somebody's probably going to record it. It's my decision. With children, they don't really have a concept of that yet. So I don't know exactly how I feel about a child, with their voice being recorded and all that. Now, I know a lot of people can scream, conspiracy and, everybody say, oh, Alex Jones, all that kind of stuff. But I don't know if he's so far off the reservation with that one because, it's... they're going to be listening to everything our children say now through their Barbie dolls. So they're starting at a young age, and I'm sure that this information will be readily available to whoever on the cloud that'll be able to start building a profile for kids even at a young age. Now, the other thing I have with that is not only are they going to be able to do that, but now depending on what your kids talk to with the Barbie dolls, they'll be able to shoot targeted ads at them, and they'll be able to do everything else that they've been doing to try to get the kids to buy stuff and all that. Maybe subliminal advertising. Who knows? But so that's something that I thought of as well. So this whole thing with the Barbies getting recording what your kids are saying and all that. I don't particularly agree with it. I think that as an adult, when you decide to use services that record your voice and stuff like that, I think that it's, you're making that decision. You're choosing, when you have a phone or something like that, or when you're going on Google, you're understanding that, you're using their service and that they have the right to, record this data and all that type of stuff. Well, this case, folks, now your kids they're starting at a young age. This is a way of them at a young age, again, getting data, starting to build your identity profile even as a child. I mean, that's what this is, basically. They're going to start building identity profiles at a young age. Okay, that's what it comes down to. Okay, they're going to start building identity profiles at a young age. They're going to know everything you've done since childhood. They're going to know everything you said. They're going to be listening to every conversation you've ever had. They're going to know everything about you. They're going to have a whole identity profile. They're going to know in 20 years from now what you're going to do. It's just, they're going to know, okay, he did this as a kid, this is a kid, this meets the criteria for somebody who's going to be this when they get older. Oh, we better arrest him before he does the act. That's what a lot of people don't realize. This is all them trying to predict the outcome of what's going to happen, later on in life. That's what all this is. I mean, everybody saw Tom Cruise's Minority Report. Okay, this is exactly that, just with technology. We don't have aliens or anything that, they're gonna predict the future. This is gonna be them. This is going to be computers. This is going to be all that. This is Skynet at the very early stages. I really, I'm not trying to go crazy or go nuts. I mean, this is Unleashed, by the way, so I'm allowed to go a little bit on a rant. But, this really is kind of scary, folks, because this is them figuring out a way to use, technology to start building a digital profile of you at a very young age. Because that's what this is. This is them building an identity profile for you at a young age. They're going to be able to know what you're doing. They're going to be able to do, to build profiles at a younger age. They're going to have all your pictures because we all know we all post our kids' pictures. I'm just as guilty of this as anybody else is. They're going to know you're going to be, your parents and all that, post your pictures as a kid up on the internet. And we all do it because we want to share it with our family, so they're going to have all that. They're going to have your kids' information. They're going to have everything. Our children are not going to be able to have anonymity online. It's not going to happen. Very few parents keep it on. I'm just as guilty of it as anybody else. But there's going to be very little, anonymity online. Watch. Our kids will not know a time before the internet. They will not know a time before cell phones. They will not know a time when you could actually live off the grid. They're not going to know a time like this. It's just the way everything is. And toys, electronic toys that record voices and have GPS in them and all that, this is all just another way of them collecting data on us. That's all this is. Okay, I'm not trying to go crazy, but that's just the truth of the matter. So, now that we got that rant out of the way, because that was really bugging me and I had to get that off my chest, and since I opened up 2 cans of audio a week for everybody, that was that little rant for the week. So some other news, folks, as well that and I wanted to bring this up because I have this on my notes on my phone here to talk to you guys about. So this is something else too. Talking about things changing. And there's something else I want to get to as well, but we're going to save it's a little later in the show. So there's something else I want to get to. So apparently, the National Baseball Commission has decided, and I don't really talk sports on this show very often, folks, but it's Unleashed, so I can take the show off the rails a little bit if I want. But we've all talked about baseball and all that kind of stuff, and I don't know many people that don't really watch baseball, so I got a little frog in my throat here, but. Long story short, I don't really talk sports on this very often, but I guess this would be a good time to get a new sponsor, like DraftKings or something like that, right? But like I said, I don't talk sports all the time, but I figured I'm going to talk at this time. So apparently, the National Baseball Commission, who has on many occasions decided that certain things need to change, so they decided that apparently the baseball rules needed to change. So apparently now, they're testing it out in spring ball, but apparently now there's going to be a shot clock like there is in basketball. Now what am I talking about? Well, I'll explain it to you. I read this on ESPN today, and I thought it was warranted some podcast time. So apparently now there will be a clock, and in between innings, the pitcher will only have a set amount of time to get the practice throws out. Now, I understand that. And the only thing that concerns me about this is if we're going to limit people on warm-ups, I hope we don't have more pitchers getting shoulder injuries and all that from not having enough time to warm up. Because in between innings, especially if you get a long inning where you're getting a lot of hits, that shoulder could get a little tight, and you might need to throw a couple pitches to loosen it up and warm it up. So, apparently now the pitcher's only going to have a limited amount of throws. That's one thing. Now, the second thing is, too, apparently now batters aren't going to be able to stall the game either because you're going to have to keep 1 foot in the batter's box. So that's going to be a little different now. So apparently now, not only is the time limit how long they have to take in between pitches, they're also limited on how much they can get out of the batter's box and loose up. So that's something. Now they're saying this is the National Baseball Commission trying to go ahead and not make the game so long, which, as the Baseball Commission, I think it's a good idea because baseball games can go quite long. But if the games are actually quicker, that actually could mean less revenue advertising for these teams. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But yeah, that was in the news as well. Some other things as well with this is how are they going, if they're limited on how much time they can hold the ball, what are they going to do if they're trying to pick a guy off at first base or something like that? I don't know if they haven't really addressed that yet. I'm sure they will eventually. But they have not taken the time yet to address that whole thing that I think all of us are wondering that are baseball fans is how are they going to pick a guy off, at first base? How are they going to pick him off if you can only hold the ball for so long? So that's going to be. The other thing is, too, the other big news, I guess, is managers now are not going to be allowed to come out of the dugout to argue the plays anymore. I guess they're saying they're going to have some kind of system now where the manager won't come out of the dugout. He'll just argue the play, and then they'll, I guess, to try to save time, keeping the managers actually in the dugouts longer. So that was something else as well. They haven't exactly addressed that yet, how they're going to handle that yet, but they're testing all this in spring ball. So that was something that was in the news as well. So that's kind of an interesting thing as well that they're talking about, and I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. I think it's kind of interesting that they're actually trying to make the games faster. You would think, first of all, folks, one thing a lot of people don't realize, and I didn't realize this either being a kid, you didn't have all these different pitching changes like you have nowadays. Years ago, the pitcher, he pitched the whole game. You didn't really have, now you have, starter pitcher, relief pitcher, closer pitcher, middle reliever, semi-middle reliever, all the kind of specialty positions now. Years ago, and I didn't know this, but you had one pitcher would pitch the whole game. So now I'm kind of surprised that they're trying to make the games longer, as over the years they've tried to make the games actually shorter. But again, I'm sure there's a reason for it. But like I said, there's that, and then of course too, one of the other things too I didn't realize when I was younger, and my dad was telling me about this, was that years ago, whoever had the best record in the Nationals and whoever had the best record in the American League would just play each other and the season would be over. Because of revenue and stuff like that, they found out that it'd be better if they set it up like they set up football with more playoff games, stretch the games out. Instead of having one game for a playoff game, have 5. All this kind of stuff that they've done over the years to try to go ahead and make the season longer. But they're trying to make the seasons longer, but the games shorter. So I thought that was kind of neat. Obviously, there's a lot more teams now than there was 10, 20 years ago, but. So that was something in the news as well this week. So I thought that was kind of interesting to point that out as well. So some news going on here in baseball as well. We don't really talk sports on here too much, but I thought that was kind of interesting. I do like a little baseball now and again. I'll see maybe a game or two a year. I wouldn't call myself a fan. I call myself probably a spectator because I do watch it enough to kind of know what's going on, but I don't watch enough to consider myself a fan. I don't have to be home for it. So, if I catch a score on my phone or something, it's good enough for me. So, that was that. So, something else I wanted to address too. And I didn't actually, something I actually noticed, I was listening to some podcasts. I was catching up on podcasts. I mean, I have regular ones I listen to every week. Stone Cold Steve Austin. I listen to the Anthony Cumia show. There's a couple other tech podcasts I listen to on a weekly basis. Survival podcast, they're a pretty good show. He's a daily show. I actually I don't listen to him every day, but I catch him once or twice a week. And Jack's a really great guy. Let me tell you, he's got a great podcast over at thesurvivalpodcast.com. Check that guy out if you have time. He does a really good show. Some of the stuff just like he does on business and finance and stuff are just handy little tips that I think everybody should know to live just a better life. And actually, the slogan of his podcast is, live a better life. Even with time gets tougher, and if they don't. But like I said, he's got a good show as well. But so I was going through on Anthony Cumia's website, and I found that he had done an Adam Corolla podcast. Now I catch Corolla. I didn't really watch Corolla a whole heck of a lot. When he was on The Apprentice, I thought it was kind of cool because it's Adam Corolla. He's on The Apprentice. He was on there with what's his name? From Orange County Choppers. And Penn from Penn and Teller were on there. So I grabbed it and I found a little more about Adam Corolla, but then I didn't really follow it. So then I decided, I didn't really decide, but I was scrolling through some old shows on the Twit Network, and Leo Laporte's crew, he does a lot of work with those guys. It's a wonderful podcast as well over the Twit Network. But so I found Triangulations where he does an interview every week, and he had Corolla on there. And so now I started really understanding Corolla. He had the most downloaded, daily podcasts, all that type of stuff. That was a little before I got into the podcasting gig. But so I was on Anthony Cumia's site, and I found that Anthony had done an Adam Corolla appearance. So I was scrolling through the YouTube, and I found the appearance. Well, Anthony wasn't on until halfway through the show. So Corolla, too many C's. was talking about Allison Rosen. Now, Allison Rosen does a wonderful podcast called Allison Rosen and Friends once a week on iTunes. But she was the daily host on Adam Carolla's site. Now, I know a little bit about her only because she had been a couple of my wife's friends and stuff had been talking about her because she had been really open about her fertility troubles and stuff like that and some other things. So I knew who she was. I knew Adam Corolla was, but I never actually listened. So apparently Corolla fired her because he didn't feel that she was fitting the show perfectly. And one thing if you know about her is she is not like Adam Carolla in the sense of she makes all her money on podcast monsters. You know, Corolla has books out. Corolla has movies. Corolla has live appearances and all this kind of stuff. Well, she makes her money specifically on podcasting. And where I'm going with this, folks, is if you remember, we were talking about Adam Corolla because if you remember last year, he fought the patent trolls. Somebody who said that they had the patent on the RSS feed and Corolla was going to fight the patent troll rather than settle out of court because he wanted to prove a point and yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. So, anyway, long story short, Corolla asked that all of his people donate their their Amazon earnings to, support his legal battle from Corolla Digital against the patent trolls. And Nerdist went in on this. Nerdist is another podcast I listen to once in a while. Actually, I got to tell you, I do like Nerdist, but I mostly watch Talking Dead. I do like Talking Dead a lot. But so Nerdist went in. Rogan went in. You can also find Rogan on SiriusXM too. But they all went in to fight these patent trolls. Well, Corolla. If you knew, Adam Corolla forced all these people to put their podcasting money in. Well, these people don't. A lot of these people, they get paid, daily, weekly from Corolla, which is, and then plus two, they also get their own money from their own podcast, what they do on his network. Well, in order to do a podcast on Adam Carolla's network, you have to give him half of your Amazon earnings because he's providing the studio, the servers, and all that, and there's expense with that. And I understand that, especially with the size of their podcast, because you're talking, millions and millions of listeners. So, you're talking, that's a lot of bandwidth and a lot of servers you need. So, long story short, so he asked her to put in all her Amazon money. Now, she didn't want to because her husband and her were trying to have a baby, and they were going through all these, treatments and all these very expensive medical stuff that, obviously dips into your pocket. No matter who you are, medical bills can just dip into your pocket. I know that just from experience. My mother, a dialysis patient, I know she goes through, waiting for a kidney transplant and dialysis and all that. Just medical bills are just unbelievable. You can't even imagine how much medical bills can rack up. Luckily, they've got good insurance, but it adds up. So, long story short, she kind of made a comment that said, "Hey, I'm not going to donate, my Amazon earnings, we need, my husband and I need this money right now. We can't take a pay cut like this. We have some medical bills and all that are coming in, and we can't afford to." So he said she wasn't a team player for not trying to fight the patent trolls. Now, my whole thing is, he chose to fight the patent trolls. They wanted to settle out of court with him. He chose to fight the patent trolls. Why should she have to put her money in and sacrifice her life and her family so that he could fight the patent trolls? Now, I'm not knocking Adam Carolla. I have a ton of respect from Adam Carolla. But there's certain things about that Adam Carolla does in the podcast industry that I don't particularly agree with. When he was on The Apprentice with Donald Trump going back a couple years ago, they were doing I believe it was an advertisement for Ford or Toyota, I don't remember. And Adam Corolla had asked to do the thing, be the head of the project for that team. And at that time, there was I believe it was Michael Andretti was on the team, and Trump had said, well, I would like, Michael Andretti to do it because Ford or whoever it was at the time wants him to do it. Well, Corolla, who took it amongst himself to take over the project And Donald Trump got upset because he felt that he told Adam what to do, and Adam went and did his own thing. Well, that's the way Adam Carolla is, and you'll hear that from anybody who's ever worked with him. Now, I don't know Adam Carolla. I've never actually worked with him. Okay, unfortunately, I've not had the privilege of it. Okay, because I would love to work with a guy like that, but I've never had the privilege of being able to work with him. So, unfortunately, I would love to, but again, I'm not knocking the guy. I'm just saying that's the way he is as a person. Now, another thing too, a lot of people don't know about Adam Carolla. Adam Carolla just doesn't have the daily Adam Carolla show. He also has his video series, which is basically he owns a warehouse full of vintage cars that he races. So, if he's fighting the patent trolls, and I'm not knocking anybody, and I'm not saying anybody that shouldn't have nice things, because we all deserve nice things, especially those that work really hard. But if he has all these vintage cars and has a warehouse full of vintage cars, why is he asking his workers to go ahead and pay this money from their earnings when he sell one of your classic cars? Don't go racing one weekend. That's the way I looked at it, and I really struck me a little bit as a little annoying that he would ask somebody who he knew, and he knew that her husband and her were going through some difficult times with medical bills and stuff like that, and he wants her to give up her earnings so that he can fight the patent trolls. Now, first of all, she's a worker. Her podcast is on his network. Okay, it's Corolla. It's Corolla Digital was the one that was fighting it. So why should she have to give up her money to protect the Corolla name? It's really weird. And the other thing too I have to say about Adam Carolla is he's a big Howard Stern fan, and the way Howard Stern puts down podcasts all the time on his show, and I don't listen to Stern, but I've heard rumblings of it. Why Corolla listens to him every week and tries his best to try to imitate what Howard Stern does, is beyond me. I don't understand it. But again, that's just me. I don't get that. But again, that's his decision. Obviously, he still is Adam Carolla. He's got a new movie out, which is pretty, which I heard is pretty cool. Obviously, he's got books out. He's got his daily podcast. So he's Adam Carolla. I got a ton of respect for what he's done for podcasting. But getting from both stories I've heard about over the last week or two, I don't know if I particularly, I don't know if for him as a person, I don't know, but him as a businessman, he's a really bright guy. So on that note, let's take a quick pause for the cause here. Listen to our pal over at Grolix, Randy. Let's listen to something by him here, the Technology Geek Unleashed. That sounded really awesome, Randy. So let's go ahead now and let's take a shout over to about our sponsors. To talk about our sponsors, and that's our sponsors over at the Members Club. The Members Club, if you join the Members Club, you get over 30 different coupon codes for 30 different sites. We have everything on there from Pro XPN to IT Pro TV to my wife's business, Serena's Nursery. If you're into any type of any of that comic book dolls or anything like that, she sells those. We have so many of them. We have Iron Edison batteries. We have Mars radios. We have all this different kind of stuff, as well as our sponsor over at Mangrate. Mangrate is the superior grilling system, and it is a wonderful system. I really like it. What the Mangrate is you put these on your grill and you get your steaks, grills, hamburgers cooked to perfection. They are made right here in America. There are four. You actually get four of them. You'll get four of them because with our offer code, you'll get 30% off and the fourth one free. And that's our friends over at Mangrate, made right here in America. Superior grilling system. I love them. They're easy to wash down. Saves the life of your grill, and it cooks your steaks to perfection. And that's our friends over at mangrate.com. Use the offer code TechGeek, TechGeek, TechGeek. And by the way, folks, as well, you can also support the podcast by joining our members club. Like I said, it's $10 and you're in for life, and you get all the coupons that you'll ever need for all our different sponsors. You go to our website, technologygeek.org. Right there, click on members club, and you can see all of them and what you'll get for them. I know especially just our one alone. Just use one for example. Look at this. Well, I'll give you just the one right now. Pro XPN, right? If you join using our offer code that we're going to give you when you join the club, okay, you will get 30% off the lifetime of your membership. 30%. So if you join and you have $30, okay, so it's $100 for the year, you're going to save about $30, okay. That paid for your membership, okay, and you save additional $20. So you just can't beat those prices, and that's our members club. So, folks, I am going to right now jump into the email portion. I normally do the questions for last, but for a change, since this is Unleashed, I am going to jump over to our email questions. Now, if you want to send me any type of questions, you can go ahead and you can send them to lepanitech@gmail.com. And I get all the emails, and I read all the emails, every single one of them. And I reply back to you if I can, and those that are good, I answer them right here on the show. So the first question that somebody had asked me, which I thought was kind of interesting, I talked about Dexter a little bit I think it was not the podcast before that, with my friend Randy, and then Randy joined us again last week for the Jesse show. But we were talking about Dexter, and I guess somebody had asked what I thought about the seasons and what I thought which season was the best. First of all, the person that played Dexter's sister, I forget her name. I think it's I'm not sure. I don't think it's Allison Carpenter. I don't know if it's Allison Carpenter or what I forget her name off the top of my head. It escapes me. But she's actually having a baby, so congratulations to her and her boyfriend. If I had to rate the seasons, I think I would go. The first season to me was always the best. I think the season I didn't like. I didn't like the one season with that gentleman from NYPD Blue. I didn't really care for that season. He was on NYPD Blue and Sons of Anarchy. I didn't care for that season. I think it was the second or the third season, but no, it was the third season. So. The first season was best. The second season I thought was really good too, because they were looking for the Bay Harbor Butcher, which was him obviously, and then Stokes. Everything happened with Stokes and all that kind of stuff. So I think the first and second were the best. Then you had the third season, which was that guy from NYPD Blue and Sons. I didn't really care for that too much. And then the fourth season I really dug, because that was the one where unfortunately Dexter's wife gets killed. But that was a really, really good one. That was the guy from, I think it was the Third Rock from the Sun who played the killer. That was a good one. And then you had the 5th season, which was good, and I believe that was the season with Tom Hanks' son. That was a good one. And then you had, the sixth season was pretty decent. The 7th season, I think it was the 6th or 7th season. I think it was the 6th season. No, I think it might have been the 7th season actually, where the one where LaGuerta gets killed. That was a decent season. But the final season with Dexter, and I didn't care for the dynamic for the final season between Dexter and his sister. I guess they had built that up so much over all those seasons. I didn't really like the dynamic the last season with them. I felt that they had really drifted apart and stuff like that. There were so many good parts, where him and her. I mean, I loved the whole Dexter and his sister kind of, their whole dynamic was great, that whole show. But, I didn't really care for that whole piece at the end. I think that the way they drifted them apart and didn't really get along too much than they did, and then she got shot and died. I didn't care for the last season, the whole dynamic between them, and I didn't really care for the way Dexter ended. So that's my take on that. But yeah, besides that though, I thought it was a pretty good season. I thought most of the seasons of that show were really, really good. So another question I have is actually it's not really a question, more of an article somebody sent me. They wanted to know if I had seen the latest article about the new book that's coming out by Steve Jobs. Apparently, I read the article. I did read the article, but apparently Steve Jobs had the opportunity to get, I guess, an organ transplant from Tim Cook and turned it down. He was against Apple TV until a bunch of people pushed him into it. And there was something else as well here talking about, I guess he wanted Apple to buy Yahoo, and he didn't. And I guess he was really upset that he didn't do it, because now obviously Yahoo's starting to really turn it around a little bit. So there was all that in this article. And I guess there's a new book coming out with Jobs that's going to actually talk about all this. So that was something that somebody had sent me. Like I said, I haven't really... obviously I haven't read the book, obviously, because it's not out yet. But, that was something that somebody had talked about with me as somebody had sent me. So I wanted to address that. I don't like to let emails just sit. So something else, not really too many tech questions this week. But somebody had sent me a neat little article talking about the show Justified. As you know, it's the last season. It's coming down between Boyd and I guess it's coming down to the final season between Boyd and Timothy Oliphant's character Raylan. But somebody asked me what do I think of the show? I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really watch a whole lot of last season because I really thought the show kind of stunk last season. This season's been okay, and I'm watching it because it's the last season. I think the first maybe 3 or 4 seasons were really great. The first season I thought was pretty good. The second season with was it I think it was Mags, who played she played the woman that apparently was I think she was it was with the coal mining, that whole thing. That was a good. Third season with that guy from that was the Oxy deal. That was a good season. There's a lot of good seasons, but this last season and this season coming up, I think are really. I think the reason why they're ending the show is because they knew last season wasn't so great. I didn't really care for this past season, but this season's been okay. I'm curious to see where they're going to go with it. And we'll have to see what they do. But so far it's been okay, I guess you could say. It hasn't been the greatest, but it hasn't been horrible either. So somebody had sent me something here talking about WWE Network. Wants to know if I watched. What have I? I get almost the same question from the same person every week. They always ask me what I'm watching on WWE Network. Anything I could recommend? Well, I just watched last night on my iPad. I just watched. They have Beyond the. I think it's Beyond the Ring. They have a section right now, and they have a piece where they were talking about. What were they talking about here? They were talking about. Oh, it was that's right. It was the greatest factions of. I just pulled it up here. It was the greatest factions of wrestling. I liked it. They talked about the Four Horsemen. They showed some of the Four Horsemen matches. They showed Evolution, some of their matches. They showed, the Straight Edge Society with CM Punk. They gave him a lot of credit for that. That was a really good one. They talked about some of the best factions in wrestling and the Hart Foundation, DX, all that stuff. They throw in some good stuff from the Attitude Era. So I think that was a really good show. If you can find it on the network, it's on Beyond the Ring, and it actually is really, really good. Go ahead and check it out. It's the Factions of Wrestling. It actually is really good. And then I watched the preview for Chris Jericho's new show, which is going to be called, I believe, it's going to be called The Road to Jericho, which is basically a documentary on his life. And some of his best matches that he picked out. So that's actually been pretty decent as well. So check those two things out on the WWE Network. If you really want to know what I've been watching, that's been pretty much it as far as what I've been watching on WWE Network right now. I'm trying to think of anything else that I really watched. Those have pretty much been the two main things. Obviously, I've watched, watching the build up to WrestleMania. And I'm looking, I actually want to get a lot of you guys have been emailing me about that. I got to get into NXT, and I have not watched it. I know I got to watch it. Everybody emails me all the time. Have you seen NXT? Have you seen NXT? And the answer is no, I haven't. I'm sorry. But I do want to watch it because it does look really, really good. But I have not gotten to it yet, but I will. Trust me, I tell you, believe me when I tell you, I will get to it. It's on my list of things to watch. I know NXT is really, really good, and they're taking NXT on the road now, according to Triple H, so it's going to get even better. So, I want to watch that. The only thing I'm upset about, and I'm not going to lie, WWE was trying to break away from OVW for a while, which was their development territory, and then when they went ahead and they got rid of OVW, and they decided they were going to do ECW, which was going to be higher level time, then they kind of squashed that. And now they have NXT. So I think NXT is definitely here to stay. But I'm not going to lie, I was a little upset when they got rid of OVW. But then when I saw they were going to do ECW, I was really happy. And now they have NXT. So I'm not going to lie, I guess I'm just upset because I did watch a lot of OVW back in the day. And then I watched a lot of, ECW when they rebooted that. I really like that. Obviously, a lot of good things came out of that. CM Punk being one of them. And then, obviously, we had this big, then, of course, they have NXT. So maybe I just haven't watched it because I'm too wrapped up with, I guess, thinking about the old way of doing things, and I got to get into it. But it's on my list of things to watch. I will watch it. We'll see what happens, with that. Then there's just, like I said, there's just been a lot of things I've been meaning to watch on the network, and I will. But, we're coming up to WrestleMania now, so I'm sure I'll be watching that in the near future. So what I'm going to do, folks, is I'm going to take you out today with a song from the band that's going to be on this Friday, Reapers. I'm going to take you out with one of their songs. I want to thank everybody for listening, and we will see you next week. Thank you very much.